Hi. Hello. Welcome. Welcome back to this thing. If you've been following along at home, you know the deal. I'm Alex. I make music as Arcade Island, and I just put out an album. You need to listen to it immediately. It's a matter of national security. I've been going through every song on the album and pulling up the hood, so to speak, and showing you the guts of how each of these songs come together and how I mixed them and recorded them and all the little fun facts and helpful hints that will come in handy later on. Last week, I took us on a tour of Running from Shadows, and today I am talking about good deeds. You know, there's no wrong way to make or write music, unless, of course, you are typing in something into a generative AI slot machine and it's just popping out a bunch of bleh, and you're saying that you're a musician. You're not. And you kind of might be part of the problem a little bit. When I first started writing music when I was a wee lad and I was 16, I just thought everything had to just be organic and just flow from me, and it had to be pure positive creativity. And that's not really the case, actually. Sometimes you just write like a little melody or a hook and some chords, and you're just like, that's something. I really like that, but I have no idea what else to do with it. And then one day you decide to yourself, I'm going to make an album, and the album's going to sound like this, and it's going to have this vibe and this atmosphere. And then you're like, oh, wait a second. Here's this thing. It's like 12 seconds long, but it's got a cool vibe to it. And I can imagine in my head that it would sound great nestled in between all these other songs that I have. Why don't I just make something out of it? And that's what this one was like. Like 7 years ago or something, I had this little thingy that I just was working on. It probably just came to me in the shower or something like that. And it just sat around, and it sounds like this. For some reason, something about this little thing, this little demo that was like 31 seconds long, I was like, I want to make something out of it. I don't know why. Don't ask me to explain it to you. I can't explain it. None of it makes any sense. I don't know what's going on up there. What do you think I'm in therapy for? I'm trying to figure out what all this shit is. And I just recreated it in Studio One and then just messed around with it until something clicked, and then it just fit. But let's get into the nuts and bolts here. So the first thing that you hear in this song is that little synth melody hook kind of thing. I played that on my Moog Subsequent 25, and when I say I played it, I did a trick that I talked about last time, which is I actually had the MIDI data here, sent that out to the Subsequent 25 and recorded it twice. Why? I'd be lying if I said it wasn't nice not to have to worry about recording it 75 times until I got the timing right. I could just have the computer take care of that. You know, I did try to randomize it a little bit to give it some spunk. But the real reason is just so I could record it twice identically and then send it left and right. And then while it's playing back, I can fiddle with the control knobs on the synthesizer and things like modulation and adjusting pitch. You get this layered effect as well as a stronger stereo image, meaning that you hear it left and right, that you wouldn't get necessarily if I just recorded it once. And so, yeah, it's recorded one time to the left. And to the right, and you can maybe even hear the difference. That's the magic of an analog synthesizer, because you're actually using circuits and not like samples that are recreated perfectly every time. You could do things like that. If I had a digital software synth and copied and pasted the performance twice, it would just sound louder. It wouldn't have any left or right characteristic to it because it's reproducing the exact same thing every single time, where this is not. These are both going to keys out, which is a bus. Remember, we talked about buses. And they're not just integral to a healthy public transit system. They also help make, where the fuck is it? They also help make mixing easier, because these two recordings can now be treated as one. You can apply bandpass and bus compression, tremolo, and as well as delay to just one, as well as being able to adjust its panning or its volume as one instead of having to always go back and adjust both of these two. And then we have these perks. Okay, so it sounds like this. So the kick is actually me slamming my fist down on my piano bench over here. And then I pitched it down, and then I added something called Submarine. This is a plugin from Waves. Hopefully this doesn't crash my freaking computer. And really it adds sub frequencies. So if you listen to it without, listen to it with, so it adds a lot more low end to it. It gives it a little bit more, it gives it a club kick kind of feel. And then just added some things like a gate to cut out unnecessary noise, EQing it to give it some kick characteristics. So really bumping that low end and as well as some of the like beater sound, and then decapitator and smack attack for some character as well as to bring out the transients. And then I did the same thing here, but I cut out a lot of the like transient shaping and really squashed it because I kind of wanted it to sound like a heartbeat. I don't even know why. I just thought it sounded really cool. So that second kick just sounds like this. And a lot of that transient characteristic is being taken out and you're just getting that low end information. So it sounds like, yeah, I don't know. I just like the body of it. And then the snap here, that is a real snap. So that's me snapping with my fingers as it's done. But I did that, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 times, who knows, I don't remember. And I actually went through the song like that. I didn't just do it once and then copy it, paste it throughout the whole thing. I went through and then did those multiple tracks, left and right, EQ, compression, and then just save on computing power as well as make my life easier. I actually just bounced that out to a single track, which is why you just have this one here. It's kind of the same thing as doing a bus, it just saves on computing power. And then hi-hats here. You take all the effects away, you can hear that it sounds like this. It's me doing this. I did some EQ on it, a ton of decapitator, which is saturation distortion, and added a little bit of delay. Without the delay, you hear this. And that just helps carry it and make it more of like a 16th note beat, if you will. We have some piano effects here. I did this later on as like a last minute addition. Without anything there, this sounded really strange. And so I needed something there. And it's just a bunch of random notes. This is reversed. This duotone. And then another reversed like low end. And I thought that was just a nice, textured, really unique way to just carry things into the verse. I like that one. So then we have these chimes that I played on my Korg mini log. And then my vocals come in. Yeah, same stack as always, really. Melodyne for pitch correction, just a little bit selectively, only on notes that I felt are offending me a little bit. And then, yeah, decapitator for distortion, some compressors, and some chorus effect. And that's all going to a verse bus over here. Verse out, which is just a compressor to kind of keep everything together, and then some delay. And that sounds like this.
Come to me with all your woes. Here's a face to tell.
Actually, if you want to hear what my voice sounds like without Melodyne, here you go.
Come to me with all your woes. Here's a face to tell.
I don't know, you can't even really tell. That first part of the verse ends, and then we get into this part. And so we've got this lead synth played on my Korg. And then I have this drone here. This drone was a bit of sound design I did internally where I just had a synthesizer set a really long delay that where the feedback was like at 100, which basically means that it just keeps going forever. And recorded a bit of that, then chopped it up, and then you get this. I'll explain why I did the bass this way later on. But the bass is really three components here. And so we have this bass here, DI'd. I recorded through an amplifier. I actually sent that signal and played it out through the amplifier and then recorded it back twice. I literally just pressed play and then I sat back. And then I took those two recordings and sent them hard left and right because I wanted it to kind of sound like Royal Blood, maybe, or like Death from Above 1979, where the bass sounds like a guitar. Like it does have the low end characteristic of bass, but you're getting a lot of mids and a lot of distortion to make it kind of sound like just like a big beefy guitar. And then I just put some like additional amp simulation on it, as well as some saturation, I think, on the other one, just to make them a little different from each other. And then I cut out a bunch of the low end here, because a big mistake that you can make when you're layering instruments is to just have them all be the same. But you can get phasing issues, and you can get issues where certain frequencies actually start to disappear because they're layered on top of each other. And in this one, I just needed like the mid to upper frequencies to just get that crunch and that sort of guitar sounding distortion. And it sounds like this. Drums on this one, again, I'm not really going to go into them too much. Tons of stuff in the stack. I did do the big fat snare, which is the dampening ring that I placed on the snare to make it punchier on this one. But really the same thing in every song, where I'm sending all of these to a bus, and it sounds like this. And then when we get into the second part of the first verse, or the second verse, whatever you want to call it, we're just back to my vocals again.
Little faith in righteousness in a world of fear.
I have some shouty vocals here to emphasize this isn't fair.
It isn't fair.
I have a lot of experience of saying that from when I was a teenager.
You scream at me,
and then some harmonies come in here in the verse.
but no one seems to hear. No one seems to hear.
A little pitchy there, but a really important thing is that you're your own worst critic. And if you're chasing perfection, you can get music that sounds really stale. And I think a lot of times when you look at bands, their first couple of records are like their most critically acclaimed, like best sounding records. And a lot of that is because they're like just new and they don't have like a good recording budget, but also they're just kind of going off their instincts and what feels good. And they're not really caring about too much about being perfect or what everyone else is doing or what's the right way to do things. And then as like bands get to their ninth album, it starts to sound stale. And there's some songwriting things that go into that. But a lot of it is that they've been recording for so long, they know what they're supposed to do. And I think an important thing to remember when you're recording is sometimes to just say, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. That is good enough. And if I made these sound perfect and I just like cranked up the auto-tune on them, it would sound robotic and stale.
But no one seems to hear.
So in the context of the song, it makes it stand out more.
But no one seems to hear.
Or maybe I just suck. So then as we get into the chorus, and this is where the recording things via MIDI data and recording it twice is really key and really important to getting really cool production tricks, is that one synthesizer leading into the chorus is doing this. And the other one is doing this. And so when they play together, they kind of go different directions in your ears if you're listening to them and with headphones on. So anyway, as we get into the chorus, the sort of defining characteristic of the chorus, and the thing that made me want to continue this song when I realized, okay, I have something interesting in the chorus, are these really cool, spacey sort of Deftones, Idiot Pilot kind of guitars, or Boxer Rebellion maybe, that are just super spaced out, left and right, tons of delay on them. They're both going to this bus over here called Space Guitar. And I actually, as an insert here, have this delay on it. Yeah, it sounds like this. I originally recorded this as a demo, the choruses all had like heavy, guitars, like chunking guitars like that are in the bridge or in other songs in this record. But here's the thing about mixing. Mixing starts before you even have everything recorded, and it starts with arrangement. And if too much stuff is in a song, it just drowns it out. Those guitars with all those delays, that effect gets lost when you have these really loud guitars. And really loud distorted guitars are kind of a bully when it comes to mixing because they take up so many frequencies. And all of those sort of ghost frequencies of the delay effect that you're hearing, they get masked by those really loud guitars. And, when you're writing a song, and if you have two melodies or something at the exact same frequency at the exact same time, they're going to fight with each other. A surefire way to make a song sound muddy and incomprehensible and lack any punch or clarity or whatsoever is just too much into it. And so this song for me, it was like I had to choose. I could have these in there but make them in the background, but I thought they were such an important part to the sort of atmosphere of the song. And that's why I actually allowed a lot of that crunch to go towards the bass. And that's really the reason that I recorded the bass that way, is that I just wanted the bass could have that like rock sound, if you will. And then these guitars could carry a lot of more of the mids and higher level frequencies. There's not much added from a production perspective in the choruses, except I have a lot of vocals in this one. Pretty big vocal stack. Primarily it's these shouty aspects. There's sort of a call and response effect that goes on with this vocal.
Save me and be forgotten. Love me or run away.
So really these two top ones here, Vox Kraus, Jesus, that's the primary melody being doubled.
Save me and be forgotten.
Then I have these two are like harmonies.
Save me.
This is actually going to a separate bus as a shout.
Save me.
It's not really a shout per se, but it's just further back in the background.
Save me and be forgotten. Love me.
Those harmonies and shouts just emphasize that lyric. I mean, the way that I structured the lyrics in the chorus is really just these sort of opposing dichotomous concepts. You could do everything right in life and bad things happen, and you could do everything wrong in life and good things can still happen to you. And it's sort of me talking to somebody and sort of mocking them, I guess, because for their naivety, I suppose, which is kind of mean-spirited in a way, but whatever. And then we get into the post-chorus, and those spacey guitars do this. With the bass. And that is something that that is, I don't know, Deftones, Glassjaw. There's a lot of Idiot Pilot reference here. Honestly, this song, a lot of this is basically me trying to make an Idiot Pilot song. If you don't know who Idiot Pilot is, check them out. They're amazing. Wolves and Strangers Should Meet Here were like seminal albums for me when I was in high school, and they just roll. Or Sunny Day Real Estate, and that's another band that's like this kind of referencing. And then we have the perks here, everyone's favorite Tupperware container. And I have this synthesizer that's just playing rhythmically. You can actually see my process for creating a single snare here. And this is the 2x4 trick. If you remember if you watched the Leviathan video, I just took 2x4s and smacked them together to get a really organic kind of wooden sounding snare. And yeah, those are all going to a bus called post-chorus snare, and just has smack attack and some compressor, and then this really long chain delay to give it some space. There's another little snap here. And then I have the same kick from the intro. And then this 3-part harmony, I guess.
And I think you know.
And so then as we get into the second verse or third verse, depending on how you define it, pretty much everything stays the same. The only thing that changes is I add this clean guitar and some bass here. I drop the left and right crunchy bass, and I just have the regular bass. And then this guitar with some rotor, some like rotor effect on it and some delay. Very 90s. And then I really like this hell melody here that leads us into the second chorus. And I wrote all this so that these elements that are leading into the chorus would all drop out at the same time. That's just arrangement. Arrangement is really important. The second chorus is, pretty much the same as the first. I don't think I changed anything else. Second post-chorus, same thing as the first. And then we get into the bridge. You can barely hear these, but these are these little reverse of swells that are going into the bridge. You can barely even hear them. I don't even know how. I know. Okay. And that's all that matters. And then we have the only distorted guitars in the song. And again, I originally had these kind of all over the place, but I took them out for arrangement and mixing purposes. All right. Just what the song needed. And then those like minor second intervals, that's a huge reference to like Idiot Pilot. There's a band called Botch that they're really famous for those. And it's just, you have two notes that are right next to each other, create that really dissonant sound. The drums here are playing along to the guitars, if you will. They should all the components of your song should be talking to each other. So as we get into the last chorus, everything drops out and we do a quieter chorus. And there's two primary components here. We have my piano here. This is the first time in the record that we have like some really recorded piano. And this is a Leslie piano that came out of my father-in-law's garage that is like ancient and kind of POS, but I kind of love the sound of it. If you had the choice between some janky ass studio console piano that sat in somebody's basement for 20 years that somebody like cleaned up versus like a $500,000 Steinway that's perfectly tuned, I take the former every single time. I really like it to sound a little dirty and a little nasty. And again, that doesn't work for every genre. I don't know if I want it to sound like that for a jazz song or, if I'm Adele, she's singing, she needs the best. And then I have this synthesizer from my Korg Mini Log. I love that one too. It kind of sounds like a UFO. I'm just doing single vocals here.
Save me and be forgotten, love me.
And yeah, then we go back into the final chorus. And the only element that gets added is that synth melody from the beginning. I had to bring it back. Melodies and your hooks are the stars of the show. And just like in Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg knew that he had to bring back the T-Rex at the end or else the audience would be pissed. I brought back, not that I'm Steven Spielberg, but I brought back this. Also, there's a woo here. You definitely hear this. I don't know why. I did this on 2 different takes because I think I was happy that they came out, and I just kept them in there. Woo! Happy accident. Like, happy accidents are part of recording and things you can't get with AI music. I do some sort of telephone style vocals here.
And be forgotten.
So taking out a little bit of the low end and adding some grit to it. And yeah, and then at the end, I sang this until my voice gave out pretty much.
It's gay.
And it was actually me kind of like tired. And I don't know, I kind of like it. In the context of the song, it sounds like, I don't know, it works. Let your songs be people. And just like people, we all have flaws and we all have things we need to work on, and we're not perfect. And that's what makes us the unique little special snowflakes that we are. And your music should be the same. Your art should be the same. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this one. This was one I worked on a lot, but honestly, going back through it, it's pretty straightforward for the most part. I hope you enjoyed this one. Go listen to my album. Go tell people about my album. That'd be real nice. And I hope you enjoy it. Honestly, that's really the only thing I really care about because there's no chance of making money off of this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I hope you're enjoying my ramblings. I enjoy my ramblings. You know, it's constant. I never turn it off. Is less a quiet autumn brook like in the Costco on Black Friday in 2007. That's all I do. Anyone who will listen, just listen to me ramble. I ramble into the void. I ramble at my dog. Sometimes I'm just walking and I'm just rambling. You know, I never shut up.